We are going to look at different data types. Now, if we were to write a program such as name equals input, what's your name? And then we put print hello and then whatever the person's name is. We've got a fairly simple program. Now let me explain what this does before we go any further. This is the output that the user is going to see. So when I click on run this, it says there, what's your name? Which is brilliant. That's exactly what we want. So that there has been output to this over here. The input is telling the computer it's requiring an input from us. Henceforth why it's saying we got something here. And then if you look, you've got something there called name. Now this is a variable. The name is essentially a temporary store. So think of a variable as something that can just store a little bit of information for us. And then the next line here is saying print hello. And you know we've got a comma there. So the comma adds this variable to my text. So watch what happens. What's your name? Dave. Ooh. And then it puts hello, and then we've got Dave here, look. So it's taken this variable there, and it's put it down here. So what we're doing then is we are basically storing items in a variable. Now this variable can be used to store anything. So if I put Dave Jones in, not Jones, as I've mistyped, there you are, you see, it can accept basically anything that I type in. What happens if we give it a number? Well, watch. If I just type in, what's your name, 40, it's come up there, hello 40. And the reason being is this is known as a string. A string essentially is any character. So if I just prove a point to you, what's your name, question mark, bracket, comma, semicolon, it doesn't matter. It's basically accepting this and then it's putting it in to the name. Now there are certain times when we don't want that to happen. For example, if we want somebody's age, because we need to do a calculation. So if we add to this program now and do age equals input, how old are you? And then we do print you are age years old. What I've got here is essentially now two items. I'm just going to put a space in here to make it a little bit more readable. So I've got another variable here called age. And what we're doing is we're storing this line as age. We're printing out the name, which has just been through, and then we're going to print out the age here. So let's run it. So what's your name? We're going to do Dave again. How old are you? We're going to do 30. And it says, hello Dave, you are 30 years old. Lovely. So this program works exactly how we expected it to. What happens though if you want to do a little bit of a calculation with it? So watch this. If we say print in 5 years time you will be, and then we put age plus 5. Now ideally we shouldn't be doing it like this, but I'm just trying to prove a point to you. So let's play this program. So what's your name? Dave. How old are you? 30. And now all of a sudden it said, it's thrown an error. So what it's basically saying here is it says type error. So it's a data type it doesn't like. So as I said, a string will accept anything, but we are trying to add numbers and it's treating this age as a letter. So what we need to do is turn it into something special. So we need to turn it into an integer. Now the way we do that is by adding the word int, int. That basically converts whatever I input here into an integer, which means that this part of the code here will start to work. So let's try it. So what's your name? Dave. How old are you? 30. And you can see there, look, it said in 5 years time you're going to be 35. Brilliant. So why does this work? Well, it works because we are now treating this as a number and we're not treating it as a piece of text. Now there's another thing that we could use. Instead of integer, we could use the term float. So watch what happens this time now to my output. So when I run it, what's your name? Dave. How old are you? 30. Now then, if you notice what it's done, a float is what we call a decimal place number, a floating point number. So you can see there, look, it's put in 0.0, and then in 5 years time will be 35.0. Now there are reasons for using floats if you obviously want a decimal, or if we're going to work out, say, monetary terms. But what happens if we did this? Look, int input, how old are you? So what's your name? Dave. And then I'm going to put in here 30.5. Now, straight away, the computer has said, no, I don't understand that. Because again, it's saying it's a value error. This is a slightly different type of error. So it's basically saying, I can understand it's a number, but it's also got this decimal place. And whenever you use the term integer, it only will accept a whole number. So when I change this to a float, I'm going to use the same term now, 30.5. So what's your name? Dave. 30.5. You can see it's accepted that there now, no problem at all. So if you ever need to use a decimal place, always use a float. If you ever need to use a whole number, use an integer. And if you just want to accept text or something like that, just leave it in its standard form. Now what happens if we did accept it as this, and then we said down here, we've added now 0.5 here. Bearing in mind it's an integer, and then we're getting the program to add something to it. Well, let's see what happens. So what's your name? Dave. How old are you? Well, you're 30. As you can see there, look, it's added it, because what Python's done is it's converted it here for me. Alright, so it's basically then treating it now a little bit like a float. Okay, so that's a really quick introduction to data types. There's a few tasks on Moodle for you to have a look at, and there's a quick quiz for you to do as well.